The moment Ryan Clark opened his mouth and said what so many people have been whispering but were afraid to scream, the entire NFL conversation shifted, because this wasn't just another hot take. This was a warning shot fired directly at the Buffalo Bills and a declaration of dominance from an Eagles team that suddenly looks like it has found something terrifying, something unstoppable, something that might break the entire playoff picture wide open. When he said the Eagles' run game is about to destroy Buffalo, it wasn't bravado, it wasn't entertainment. It was a calculated statement rooted in what the film is screaming, what the numbers are whispering, and what defenses across the league are terrified to admit. This wasn't hype. This was a prediction loaded with consequence. Because when you start talking about Saquon Barkley running downhill with momentum, behind an offensive line that's finally playing angry, paired with a quarterback who can punish you with his legs if you blink, you're not talking about a matchup anymore. You're talking about survival. And the scariest part for Buffalo is that everyone sees it coming, and no one is convinced they can stop it. This conversation exploded because it touched a nerve that's been exposed all season long. The Buffalo Bills, for all their firepower, for all the highlights, for all the Josh Allen heroics, have one glaring weakness that teams are circling like sharks, smelling blood in the water. Their run defense isn't just suspect, it's vulnerable. And when you're heading into a game against a team whose entire identity is built on imposing its will on the ground, that vulnerability becomes a liability. That's the context that turned this from a football breakdown into a warning siren. And when Ryan Clark said the Eagles' run game could destroy the Bills, he wasn't exaggerating. He was laying out a reality that's been building for weeks. This is where the story truly begins. The Eagles have quietly transformed into a machine that thrives on physical dominance. It's not flashy, it's not pretty, it's relentless. Saquon Barkley is finding his rhythm at exactly the wrong time for opposing defenses. The offensive line is moving people against their will. And Jalen Hurts, built like a linebacker with the instincts of a quarterback, is becoming the ultimate multiplier. Defenders can't commit to one threat without opening the door for another. And when that happens, games start slipping away fast. On the other side, Buffalo is facing an identity crisis. They can run the ball. That's not the problem. They can put up points. That's not the problem either. The problem is stopping anyone else from doing the same thing to them. When you're near the bottom of the league in run defense, it doesn't matter how explosive your offense is, because eventually you're going to be forced to watch the clock bleed while someone else dictates the terms of engagement. That's exactly the nightmare scenario being painted here, and it's why this matchup feels less like a game and more like a referendum on who these teams really are. Ryan Clark didn't mince words when he broke down how the Eagles are built to exploit Buffalo's biggest flaw. He talked about physicality. He talked about commitment. He talked about a run game that isn't just about yards, but about control. And that's the part that hits hardest. Control. Because when you control the line of scrimmage, you control tempo, you control fatigue, you control momentum, and eventually, you control belief. The Eagles don't need to outscore you in a shootout if they can suffocate you for 4 quarters. And against a Bills team that's been gashed repeatedly, that formula becomes terrifyingly realistic. What makes this even more intense is the psychological layer. Buffalo knows this is their weakness. Every team they face knows it too. And when a weakness becomes public knowledge, it becomes a pressure point. Now it's not just about fixing it schematically. It's about proving you can overcome it mentally. Because once doubt creeps in, it spreads. And when Saquon Barkley starts ripping off chunks of yardage early, that doubt turns into panic. The conversation also touched on something deeper, something that goes beyond one game. This is about identity. The Eagles are leaning fully into who they are. They're not pretending to be something else. They're embracing the grind, the physicality, the idea that they will break you before you break them. That's a dangerous mindset when paired with talent. Meanwhile, Buffalo is still searching for balance. They're dynamic, they're explosive, but they're also fragile in ways that don't show up on highlight reels. And then there's Jalen Hurts, the quiet constant in all of this. The quarterback who doesn't need to throw for 400 yards to dominate a game. The quarterback who turns short yardage situations into inevitabilities. When he becomes part of the run game, defenses are forced to make impossible choices, stack the box and risk getting burned over the top. or spread out and watch him bulldoze through your front seven. That dual threat is what elevates this Eagles offense from good to suffocating. Ryan Clark's comments weren't just analysis, they were a warning. A warning that the Bills might be walking into a buzzsaw. A warning that this version of the Eagles is built for December football, where weather, toughness, and discipline matter more than flash. A warning that if Buffalo can't suddenly find a way to stiffen up against the run, this game could slip away from them in the most demoralizing way possible. And yet, that's what makes this matchup so compelling, because the Bills aren't pushovers. Josh Allen is still Josh Allen. He can flip a game on its head with one throw, one scramble, one moment of brilliance. But even that has limits. Even that gets neutralized if he's standing on the sideline watching the clock melt away, while the Eagles pound the ball downfield. The tension in this conversation comes from the inevitability of the clash. Two teams with championship aspirations. Two quarterbacks with something to prove. Two philosophies colliding. And one glaring weakness that could decide everything. Ryan Clark didn't just predict a game script, he exposed a fault line. And now everyone is watching to see if Buffalo can reinforce it, or if Philadelphia will break right through it. This is why this game matters. This is why the conversation feels so urgent. Because it's not just about a win or a loss. It's about identity, about legitimacy, about whether the Bills can evolve, or whether the Eagles are about to announce themselves as the most physically dominant team in football. And if Saquon Barkley does what many expect him to do, if he runs wild, if he controls the pace, if he forces Buffalo into desperation mode, then this won't just be a game. It will be a statement. And that's why everyone is watching. That's why the debate is so heated. That's why Ryan Clark's words landed like a punch to the chest. Because deep down, everyone knows this isn't hype. It's a warning. And if Buffalo can't answer it, the Eagles won't just win. They'll send a message the entire league will feel.